A dagger was too costly for him. Instead, a laborer used a file to fatally stab Empress Elisabeth of Austria in September 1898. By pure chance, she became his victim. Remarkably, both she and her assailant shared a profound hatred for the monarchy. Is it possible to be stabbed without realizing it? It can happen, especially if you're caught off guard. On the afternoon of September 10th, 1898, Empress Sisi, speaking to her companion Countess Irma Stare, remarked, "What was that man trying to do?" She speculated, "Perhaps he wanted to steal my watch?" Moments earlier, an unknown attacker had lunged at her by the shores of Lake Geneva. She fell backward, and her heavy, styled hair softened the blow of the fall. Sisi gets up, has her dirty dress cleaned, and rushes toward the pier to catch the 1:40 p.m. steamship to Territet. Though she complains of chest pains, she doesn't collapse until after walking 120 steps on the ship's upper deck. The captain quickly turns the ship around and has the unconscious Empress brought back to the Beau Rivage Hotel. There, her corset is loosened, revealing a small brownish stain on her left breast. Sisi regains consciousness and, with a clear voice, asks, "What exactly happened?" These are the final words of Elisabeth Amalie Eugenie, Empress of Austria and Queen of Hungary. According to her death certificate, she breathes her last at 2:40 p.m. According to the autopsy, a long, sharp object had pierced 85 millimeters into the monarch's tissue. It struck the fourth rib, severed the front part of the left lung, destroyed the pericardium, and penetrated the left ventricle of the heart. Just over 2 hours after the murder, the weapon was found, a triangular file with a wooden handle. It belonged to Luigi Lucchini, 25. The Italian laborer killed Sisi almost by chance, as his original target was not there. Lucchini's original target was Italian King Umberto I, but being penniless, he couldn't afford the trip. His next target was the Duke of Orleans, who was scheduled to visit Geneva in September. When the visit was suddenly called off, Lucchini settled for Sisi instead, leading to one of the most well-documented criminal cases of the fin de siècle. Lucchini had learned about the imperial visit from the newspaper, even though Sisi had arrived under a false name. To the Italian, driven by fantasies of assassination, the identity of the victim hardly mattered. "I would like to kill someone, but it must be a very famous person," he had told his roommate in May 1898. A revolver or dagger was too expensive for Lucchini, so he had a file sharpened to a razor's edge. After studying the location of the heart in an anatomy atlas, he wandered through Geneva, waiting for the right moment. That moment came on September 10th, a late summer Saturday. In the morning, the Empress and her companion took a leisurely walk through the city. Sisi bought a music box, Ariston, and 24 records for her grandchildren. The women stopped at a pastry shop, enjoyed ice cream, and bought candy. Around 1:15 p.m., they returned to the hotel but quickly left again, as their ship was about to depart. On the way to the lake, Lucchini intercepted his victim and struck quickly. Due to the file's thinness, the blood leaked gradually from the heart chamber into the pericardium, slowly causing the heart to cease functioning. The cause of death was a pericardial tamponade induced by the stab wound. As if in a daze, the murderer walked through the streets of Geneva, whistling and singing. His quick arrest did nothing to spoil his upbeat mood. A photograph shows him after his capture, grinning broadly, the stocky man in a hat striking a pose for the camera. "All the better," Lucchini exclaimed upon hearing of the Empress's death. He showed no remorse in court, even boasting, "I would do it again." With the phrase, "I believe in propaganda by deed," Lucchini cast himself as an anarchist. As revealed in his memoirs, published in 1998, the Sisi assassin was a man deeply disillusioned with life. An abandoned foundling rejected by his parents, he grew up in poverty and never received the attention he longed for. "Don't you know that rejected love breeds hatred?" he wrote in his memoirs. Lucchini's hatred of all things aristocratic was driven less by political beliefs than by a deep sense of betrayal. The state, to which he had devoted 3.5 years of faithful service as a soldier, denied him the job he had desperately hoped for in 1897. Had Licini, the accidental monarchist, spoken to Sisi for just 5 minutes, he would have realized that he had chosen the wrong victim. The Empress against her will, as her biographer Bridget Hammond put it, despised the court as much as her killer did. I woke up in a dungeon, and chains are on my hands, the Empress wrote in 1854, just 2 weeks after her marriage to Franz Joseph. Sisi saw the monarchy as an anachronism and frequently shocked those around her by saying, "I heard that the most practical form of government is the republic." Instead of fulfilling the hated ceremonial duties in Vienna, the reclusive Sisi traveled the world and vented her anger against the Habsburgs in her poetry. She also engaged in a destructive obsession with fitness and dieting. At 1.72 meters tall, she never weighed more than 50 kilograms. For lunch, Sisi often had only salted raw egg whites, and at night, she would apply a raw beef mask to her face. It was all in vain. The monarch grew old and wrinkled, transforming into what she described as a mummy. As a result, she began to conceal her face behind a fan. When her son Rudolph took his life in 1889, along with his lover, Sisi herself began to long for death. She gave away all her colorful clothes and wandered restlessly through Europe, dressed in black and in disguise, unable to bear life in Vienna more than ever. The two words, hope and joy, Mama has erased from her life forever, wrote her daughter Marie Valerie in May 1898. With the assassination, Licini had freed a deeply unhappy, life-weary woman. Now it has happened as she always wished, quickly, painlessly, without medical consultations, the daughter remarked upon receiving the news of her death. The entire nation mourned the Empress, and Licini finally received the attention he had craved. "Be cursed for the rest of your life, wretched, cruel monster," read a letter signed by 16,000 women from Vienna to the Sisi killer. After just one day of trial, Licini was sentenced to life imprisonment. When his writings were stolen in prison, he lost his composure and was placed in solitary confinement, where he hanged himself with a belt on October 19, 1910.